You know, most of the time, Jesus is not with his family. He's on the road with these people he's called to be his disciples. This Sunday is one of those rare moments when Jesus goes back home to the folks at home, back to his family. But as so often happens in Jesus' interaction with his own family, things don't go that well. His family says not, wow, we've got a relative who is doing a great job in his ministry and causing a lot of comment. They say, he's crazy. He's out of his mind. He's insane. And maybe that's why Jesus turns and they say to him, are you going to be with your family? And he replies, hey, who is my family? And then says, I tell you, my family, my real family, is my mother and my brothers, is anybody who does my will, who follows me. Wow, this would be a tough text for Mother's Day. You know, what do you do with this? Particularly because in our context, I mean, if there's one thing we can all agree on here this morning, it is that family, marriage, good thing. I go by churches and they say a family church. They get a family life center. Family values were all the rage a number of years ago. And the family is the one unassailable, unadulterated good among us. I would do anything for my family, we brag. I know as a young pastor, I was in a discussion group in my church about the Ten Commandments. And I was saying that, you know, the Ten Commandments are just straightforward, no nonsense, unexplained commands of God that we're to obey. Can't we all agree that we should obey the Ten Commandments? And one of the members of the group said, how do you mean always obey a commandment? And I said, well, murder. I mean, we all agree it's wrong to kill, right? And that group in my church said, yeah, you shouldn't kill. Now, except if my family was threatened, I would kill. If my family was hungry, I would steal. I would kill, I would steal, I would do. And I said, so okay then, so the Ten Commandments say you don't kill unless your family or a close relative is associated there, and then you can. I don't know. Can the American family bear the weight, the moral and spiritual weight we're putting upon it? I'll tell you, as a pastor, I spend a good bit of my pastoral care time dealing with people who are dealing with damage done to them in their family. I bet there are people sitting in this congregation this morning who are still dealing with the sad things that happened to you, done by parents who loved you but did not know how properly to love you. The American family, for any of its strengths, I mean, let's be honest, a lot of sad things happen in the family. Maybe, I know with young couples in marriage, young couples going through marital stress, one of the things I've noticed as a pastor is that sometimes they're having tension in their new marriage, not because they don't believe in marriage, not because they're not putting a lot into their marriage, but because they believe ridiculous things about marriage. They're putting all their affection, all of their creativity, their intellectual interests, their spiritual engagement on this one other person, and it just can't bear the weight. To quote that great theologian Chris Rock was saying in a comedy routine, hey, don't go around bragging. Look at me, I would do anything for my children. Hey, your children look just like you. It's your job as a parent to do anything for your children. You're nobody special. Yeah. It's not that great of a moral achievement for me to sacrifice for, to plan, to do, to give of my time to my family. They look like me. They're an extension of me. But I'll tell you, in my own church, I was proud. We have a lot of people come to church with their families. They all sit together. Great. I was more proud when our church raised $10,000 to give to a woman who is trying to hold a family together with 3 children, working 2 jobs. That woman is not in our church, and none of us are related to her except through Jesus. It's not that Jesus is against the family. It's not that the church doesn't think your family is a good thing. It's just that the church has a larger idea of family. When we say family, what we mean is church. By baptism, every time we baptize somebody, I don't care what age they are, in effect, the church ought to say, hey, you got a nice mother and dad, that's fine, but these 2 people, as good as they are, they're not good enough to raise a Christian. It's going to take all the rest of us working with you. Your family is not big enough. It is not expansive enough. It doesn't have all the gifts it needs. And so, in the wisdom of God, through baptism, we're placed in a family whose boundaries go beyond every nation, every race, the whole world. That's our definition of family. What's really amazing is that a number of you in this congregation might go out in the middle of the night, might take the late night phone call and stay by the phone and talk this thing through with somebody, might make monetary sacrifices and gifts for people that you're not related to by blood, but rather people, the only reason that you're related to them is Jesus. Jesus says, I haven't come to assault the family. I've come to create a new family. And anybody now that tries to walk with me, that does my will, they are my mother, my brother, and my sisters. As a pastor, I remember we did a men's prayer breakfast on every Wednesday morning. And so at the men's prayer breakfast one Wednesday morning, I said, as we go into prayer, I'd like you to pray for me because I've got a kind of demanding morning. Johnny was arrested last night, DUI. Johnny was being raised by a single-parent mother. He was having a tough time through his adolescence. Everybody sighed at the table. And I said, I got to go by the jail this morning and check on Johnny and see how he's doing. And I covet your prayers. Well, right then, one of the men at the table spoke up and said, well, preacher, how about my going with you? Because I think I know a whole lot more about alcohol abuse than you do, okay? And I said, yeah. Another man spoke up, and he said, preacher, I feel so for her, that mama and that boy, let me go too. Anyway, so 4 of us show up down at the jail. And we go in there, we ask to see Johnny, And we are led back into this labyrinth. Back there in this dark, cold cell, there was a 17-year-old who looked like he was about 5 or 6, huddled in a corner, weeping. And I stood there and I said, Johnny, we're here for you, and we want you to know that we care. And with that, one of the lay people kind of moved me aside and said, Johnny, come over here. Said, we don't just care, we're going to do something about this. Said, how much is your bail? How much it costs to get you out of here? And he said, oh, they said it would be like a couple $1,000s. And he said, all right, we'll do it, we'll get that done. And the other man stepped up and said, Johnny, how long have you been an alcoholic? And he said, oh, I don't think I'm an alcoholic. And he said, okay, how long have you been lying about being an alcoholic? Let me rephrase that. And he said, Johnny, I know about a lot of stuff in life, but I know a whole lot about this illness. I learned it the hard way. And I can help you escape. And he said, your mama doesn't know how to raise a boy. Look, we got extra bedroom. When we get you bailed out, you're going to come home with us. And let's give your mama a little break here, and let's give you a break, and let's see if we can put this thing back together. I stood there as a pastor. I thought about this text. But I said to the people gathered there, Johnny and those 3 men, I said, this is baptism. Today, God has used you to teach me the deeper meaning of what we do every time we receive anybody into this family. Was at a church, and I was visiting as bishop, and rock, country music, I don't know, it was contemporary, and it was meeting in this old warehouse and all. So just before I was to preach, the pastor leaned over and said, hey, we're going to show a video before you talk. And I said, a video of what? He said, we're just asking people, why do you like Interchange Church? And that's all it is, then you'll preach. Well, so the video came on after the music, and this young woman looking in the camera, and she said, when my boyfriend beat me up, I was beat up so bad. I put on a lot of makeup, and but said I didn't go out of the house for a couple of days, but then I needed milk for the baby. So I put on all the makeup I had, and I put on dark glasses, and I went to the grocery store. And said, I was at the grocery store, and this woman comes up to me that I don't even know. And she said, who did that to you? Did a man do that to you? And I said, I had an accident. And she said, honey, you don't need to lie to me. She said, I've had the same thing happen to me. And she took my glasses off, and she says, oh my. She said, you need to go to church. And she said, I said, what's church? And she said, look, where you live, I'll come by and pick you up tomorrow morning, and I'm going to take you to church. And she said, that's how me and my baby got to Interchange. And said, that first Sunday, I walked in here and I looked around, and people treated me special, and I said during the service, this is the family God meant for me to have.